So thriving and aging, there are two words that you often hear in the same sentence in the United States of America, right? I'm older today and I feel better than I did yesterday is not exactly a phrase we often say here, sadly, but true. And certainly not here in Southern California, the land of nip and tuck, where we stretch it and expand it and reduce it and liposuct it and Botox it so that we don't have to look at it, look like it. We want to warehouse it, put it away. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to be like it. And it's sad. We're the only society on earth who doesn't really look directly at this phenomenon. I find it a little bit immature that we can't decide that we just want to get older. I've actually spoken in places where I've asked the audience to raise their hands and say how many people want to get older, and half of them raise their hands. And what does that tell you? The other half likes the alternative better. Seems fairly strange to me. I like the idea of getting older, actually, in comparison to the alternative. So what I want to join you in asking today, I want you to join me in answering the question here at TED, how did we get here? How did we get to a place where we dislike aging so much? And I have one theory. We have a theory about retirement that is a long-standing, this is what we do with the rest of our lives. We work the entire first half of our life to doggedly pursue the ability to do absolutely nothing with the rest of it. Our idea of retirement is I want a view of a golf course. I don't want to actually play golf. I just want to watch it through a window. And somehow I find that backwards and upside down. When we were 65 years old, many decades ago, when this idea was first thought up, and we lived 2 or 3 years to 67 or 68, and we died, that was great. You live a few years at a golf course looking through a window, you can survive it. These days we live until our 80s, 90s, up into our 100s. You got 3, 4 decades of this to do. It's a bad idea. It's doing nothing for that period of time. It's an acre of time. So what I want to do is challenge us to think about this in a different way. I run a nonprofit called Engage, and we're in the business of the art of active aging. And what we do is change the way people age and change the way people think of aging by transforming retirement communities into vibrant centers of lifelong learning, wellness, and creativity. Very simple idea. When I first started looking into these places where people live when they get older, the only thing they had in common is they were over a certain age. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to change the neighborly conversation to my elbow hurts and I'm on 27 medications to something a little bit cooler than that. When we looked for a model to change it, I went into these places and they had things on the calendar, and what they had to look forward to every week was bingo and donuts. And donuts, as we know, is a food, not an activity. It's not a very good food. And I think you can tell what I think about bingo. So we looked at college, and when you look through retirement with the right set of goggles, it's a lot like college. It's a transformation point in our life. It's a launching pad. When I first got to college and you open that catalog, it was a world filled with windows and doors that were open to anything I wanted to do. I could transform myself. I could learn something. I could be something new. Retirement's the same thing. We have time. If you eliminate cost and transportation from the equation, they can be in college. So we started hiring professional college-level teachers to teach programs of merit. We operate on a semester schedule because when someone did something right in these places, they would kill it by having the writing class on Tuesday afternoon go forever. Nothing is interesting forever. We operate on a 3 or 4 month schedule. The programs and teachers change. You graduate through levels just like college. We create these things called culminating events because when you're working in lifelong learning, it's not the same goal. You're not going to graduate and get a job as an investment banker. So we create reasons for them to use the skills. So if you go to a writing class, it culminates in a stage play, a film, a poetry slam. If you go to a painting class, we have art shows where the public comes in and views the art. Same thing with music, dance, any type of lifelong learning. Again, free on-site. We have a radio show called Experience Talks that highlights the value of experience, the idea that having been around the block a few times matters, and that people like that should be able to talk about it on the air and have people be inspired by it. We have famous people on the show, but my favorite stories are, as my hero Studs Terkel called them, the non-celebrated humans. The people that we serve. We serve 3,000 older adults, primarily low income, living in 20 sites in Southern California, and none of them are famous, but they're going to be soon. The stories of people who are normal people doing extraordinary things. And to bring it further into focus, I want to tell you one of those stories. Several years ago, I met a woman named Suzanne CanoD, who in our world is a youngster, a relative youngster. She was in her 60s, old before her time, suffered a traumatic accident, was in chronic pain, suffering from depression, having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, worked 2 jobs to support getting 2 daughters through college her whole life, and did nothing for herself, ever. Met her, and she moved to a place that we developed in partnership with Meta Housing Corporation, a wild man developer named John Husky, who I'd met a long time ago, who listened to a crazy man like me about what you could do in these places. And we created this place called the Burbank Senior Artists Colony, where Suzanne moved. And it was the first senior apartment community that featured arts as its glue. Instead of people being old, people could have creativity as their neighborly relationship. And we used to joke that instead of people going next door to borrow a cup of sugar, they'd go next door to get script notes. That was the dream sheet. Suzanne moved to this place. It has art studios and a theater and outdoor performance areas and places to make digital films and everything under the sun you could imagine to be a creative human being over the age of 55. She'd never done anything artistic. She had a tickling in the back of her mind that she might be a writer. Attended a writing class. The first assignment was to create a story with conflict. She chose screenwriting, an insane move for anyone who is a writer. It's not the easiest medium to work in. Turned in a 12-page screenplay that what we really wanted was for it not to suck. What happened was I got hold of a script that was one of the most poignant, funny pictures of aging I had ever heard, called Bandida. It was a story of an older woman who takes a senior bus transported in front of a liquor store, lowered down on her walker with tennis balls on the front, walkers into the liquor store, dons a mask from the film Scream, pulls a pistol, and starts to rob the place. And during the course of this robbery, develops a friendship with the older Armenian gentleman behind the counter who owns the store, to the point that he roots for her and lets her get away with the crime in the end. And for those of you who can't read the tagline on the poster, it's a pistol, a plan, and sensible shoes. We formed a film production company called Last Gasp Productions. And in my world, it's good to have a sense of humor about what you do. We produced this little film. We cast it with people who lived in the building. We hired a director. We became film people. It was hilarious. We had no idea what we were doing. But we were in the radio business as well. And one of my other heroes, Ira Glass, we thought, maybe Ira Glass would be interested in this story. He tells these strange stories about small people doing weird things. So we pitched him on this idea, hoping that we would get it on the radio show. Ira loved it, came out, spent 3 weeks at the Burbank Senior Artists Colony filming the making of Suzanne's film and the story of transformation in her later life, and put it on the first season of his national television show, This American Life, on Showtime. So here's Suzanne CanoD, who has never done anything in her life, never written a word, whose first film ends up on national television on This American Life, drinking scotch in her living room with Ira Glass. My hero. I'm a little jealous, which is what we want. We want to be jealous of these people now. The other thing that happened was the first time Suzanne actually saw her film, she won into competition at the Valley Film Festival in the NoHo Arts District and watched her film, her 12-minute film, for the first time with an audience of 350 people weeping on stage as they gave her a standing ovation for her film, along with, you can see the woman in the walker there with the Scream mask. That's the woman who played Bandida in the film. So the moral of the story here, what I want to cut to, is one, this idea of arts and aging. It's a natural fit. The combination of doing something creative as we get older is the way I want to get older. We are several blocks away from another arts colony, the Long Beach Senior Arts Colony, which opens in about a year from now. Which will be the first fully affordable senior arts colony in the country. Again, trying to get people to age creatively. And the second moral to the story, which is more important to me, and I think it will be to all of you, is when I grow up, I want to be Suzanne CanoD. The answer to the question, would I put my mom into one of these places, is the wrong question. And the question that we should ask is, would I live there? And my answer is yes, and that was what brought me on this journey. And every day, people like Suzanne and the 3,000 other seniors that I serve teach me more than I could ever teach them every day of my life. And it's the right way society should look at this idea of getting older in America. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I appreciate you listening to it. Thank you very much.